Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking Digicams, specifically the Fujifilm FinePix E550. This is a 6.3 megapixel Super CCD sensor camera from 2004. It has a 4x optical zoom lens on it, equivalent to a 32.5 to a 130 millimeter. So a really nice zoom range on this pocketable point and shoot. It has a built-in flash, so you can get those nice like direct flash shots that seem to be really popular right now. This camera also has your standard, PSAM mode dial. For me though, the best feature about this camera is the fact that it shoots RAW. And the file format is .raf, so your standard Fujifilm file format, supported by Lightroom and Camera Raw, so no issues with editing those. And if you're looking for that early 2000s Digicam look, this camera delivers. So the way I stumbled upon this camera was I run a video production company and we were doing some client work in Pocatello, Idaho of all places. On our way there, we flew into Salt Lake City and we're picking up some camera gear at Acme Camera there in downtown Salt Lake City. If you're ever passing through Salt Lake City, I highly recommend you stop in at Acme Camera. I really enjoyed my time there with those guys. They were super knowledgeable about cameras and just had some great conversation. But when I walked into the store, there was a display case of early 2000s Digicams, and I knew I wasn't leaving the store without one. The first thing I picked up was a Canon PowerShot, and they ended up not having a battery for that camera. So the next thing that caught my eye was this Fujifilm, and what really stood out to me was that it says Super CCD on the front. And in my experience with CCD cameras, you're gonna get a look that's just different than CMOS. Other than that, I knew nothing about this camera. I didn't know the equivalent focal length. I didn't know that it was 6.3 megapixels. I could just see that it had a mode dial, a built-in flash, CCD sensor, and that was pretty much good enough for me. The fact that it shoots RAW was really a surprise, and I'm super glad that I picked this up because it has just lived in my camera bag ever since. While we were on this trip, I tried to take as many photos as possible, but of course it was a work trip, so not a ton of free time to just go around and shoot. But the town of Pocatello is just gorgeous. It is like in the valley, surrounded by mountains on every side. It was fall, so the leaves were changing. There was snow on the mountaintops. It was just a really cool experience to be there at that time of year, and also to have a camera like this to just kind of document the trip. So I had quite a bit of a unique experience when shooting with this camera, and that is when I got the RAWs into Lightroom and Photoshop, I noticed that the colors weren't quite what I was expecting when I was looking at the LCD. This LCD screen shifts the blues quite a bit towards cyan and has lifted blacks and shadows and just overall kind of a pastel color palette that I really love. And so when I was editing the RAWs, I just tried to get as close to the look of this screen as possible, and I actually used this screen as a reference when editing the RAWs. I wish that all of the JPEGs and RAWs just straight out of camera had this look, but it was easy enough to achieve and I think was worth the extra effort. So even though we didn't get to do a lot of photography on that trip, you know, the fact that I had this little pocketable point and shoot in my coat pocket at all times meant that I was able to document parts of our trip and get photos that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. You know, sometimes it's just cumbersome to haul around a full frame camera and take it out just for a quick snapshot. But when you've got this in your pocket and it just turns on quickly, you can get the shot you want. You can just document everyday things that you see interesting, and there's no resistance to doing so. To wrap this up, guys, I think it's totally worth it to have a point and shoot like this in your camera bag or your pocket at all times. It's just so much more fun for me taking snapshots with this instead of my phone. It's also a conversation starter with other photographers. And I love the aesthetic that a camera like this gives you for just capturing everyday memories. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I've got tons more photography and gear related content coming. I'll catch you next time.